What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Import Modified. Decided to go ahead and tear down this fully built H22 I bought a long time ago. It's been sitting in my storage unit for quite some time, and I think now's a good time to go ahead, tear it down, inspect all the parts, and see how much of this is salvageable and what parts I have in order to build this thing as cheap as can be. I was looking at it a little bit, and I do believe there is a lot of great parts to be had on this, and I think that I could put together a nice H22 on a very tight budget. So let me go over this engine real quick. It is fully built from head to toe, and it was built for 10,000 RPM from the previous owner. He had sent it to the machine shop, had a bunch of work done to it, and I'll go over it a little bit, but he had it at 10,000 RPM when it spun a rod bearing. So it starved itself of oil, and it took out one of the rod bearings. I had the oil pan off already. I inspected the bottom of it a long time ago, and it looks like one rod bearing spun and the other three are in good shape. So I'm hoping that a lot of parts are salvageable. This head is a full stage 3 head. It has port and polished ports. It has aftermarket Skunk 2 cam gears, and I'm hoping these are Skunk cams. We won't know until we take it all apart. It has high compression forged pistons in it. I'm hoping the block is sleeved, and I'm hoping. And it has a machine crank that allows you to spin it up to 10,000 RPM. So a lot of machine work has gone into this, and I know that I won't be able to use the crank right away. I'm hoping it's salvageable because it's a pretty cool piece. I'll show you guys real quick. If you see the material, how much they took away, it's balanced and shaved down so it could spin up to 10,000 RPM. If you see the rod right here, the color of it, now look at the one that spun, it's really dark. So I'm pretty sure that crank chewed itself up pretty good. So I'm hoping I can save it and use it on a later build for later. It's a cool piece. I would love to be able to reuse it, right? It does have the delete for the balance shafts, and I do have quite a bit of parts for this engine because on that EK right there, I did a H to B swap a long time ago, and I learned a valuable lesson about H22s. You cannot put aftermarket pistons in the stock sleeves. It'll destroy itself. That's what happened with this one. I didn't know, and I found out a valuable lesson. And it went ahead, it lasted about 500 miles, and then it lost compression in cylinder 3 and 4 and then started smoking really bad. But it only has 500 miles on it, and a lot of the stuff is new in that engine. So I have a lot of parts to pull from in order to get this thing right. So let's just go ahead and take this thing apart and see exactly what we got, what's savable. And I am crossing my fingers and hoping that the sleeves are done in this block as well. So let's go ahead and find out. All right, so we got the cam caps and the cams off. I want to point something out real quick. It does have beefier valve springs and retainers because when you go stage 2, stage 3, you have to do that upgrade. It's been done along with the port and polish, so you know this head flows really well. Looking at the cams, I was able to find some stampings, and you have a 3, which usually signifies a stage 3, and then on the other side is an M as in Mike. And same on that cam. So I'm taking it that these are a stage 3 cam, and that makes sense to me because they built this for 10,000 RPM. They want a level 3 screaming high flow cam that's all top end, right? Because it would match what they're aiming for on this. So I'll have to do some research. If you guys know what type of cams those are, save me some time. Go ahead and leave it down in the comments below. But now we're gonna go ahead and take the head off, and it doesn't even look like they have studs on it. It just looks like bolts. So they may have used the same bolts, stock bolts, or they may have used some type of upgrade bolts. I don't know. I was expecting to have head studs. But let's go ahead, take the head off, and we're gonna inspect underneath the head and the tops of the pistons. right, so we got the head off of the block, and looking down at the cylinders, you can tell that these are obviously aftermarket, and you can also tell that they're high compression. This one in particular is the one I've been looking at because this is the one that spun the rod bearing, and I don't see any damage of the valves kissing or markings of any sort of the valves kissing the piston. So that's a very good thing. That kind of takes care of my concern of the valves being damaged. So I can pretty much bet that those valves in that head are good. And looking at the valves, they may be oversized valves. I don't know. I have a reference head in the back. I can measure those and then measure these and compare the two and see to confirm whether or not it's got oversized valves. But the fact that everything's good in it makes me happy, makes it well worth buying this engine, right? So next thing I want to do is take the pistons out and inspect the cylinders and everything and the pistons themselves and see how much of this I can salvage. And hopefully it didn't damage any of the walls or pistons or anything like that, and I can reuse all that and just get away with either another rod or another set of rods. So looking underneath, we got to take the pistons out of the block now, and we're going to do so by taking off this oil distribution slash brace bracket. We'll take that off, then we'll undo the rods and push the pistons out through the top of the engine, and then after that take the crankshaft out, and then we'll be able to inspect everything. So let's do it. Alright, so we got the crankshaft out, and I can see a little bit of wear right here. This is the cylinder that had the bad rod bearing. It got everything hot. This got hot. I'm trying to figure out if this is just from heat or did it wear in. I don't think it wear it in because it would be worn past the bearing, and the bearing is still intact, but it is wider in the middle part, like it got smashed down a little bit. And this is the top side, or the bottom side, I guess, for the cap. It got hot as well, but not as hot as this one, right? So that is the worst of it. I did check the condition of the cylinders, and the cylinders actually look pretty good. The pistons look good. Everything looks reusable on that. I was surprised. I lucked out on that big time. So that can be reused. The block can be reused as long as this is good, right? The pistons, they all look good. This is the one with the bad rod bearing. Looks just as good. And I did measure the bore size. The bore size is 89 mil, so it's 2 mil over. Factory is 87, so it's got to be sleeved. And this is actually a H22A, not an A4, so it's got a closed deck design. And the A4s, this is all open between the cylinders, so this is a sturdier block. So I'm hoping the the journal will measure out and I can still use it because it's just too good to be true with the cylinders and the pistons and everything. All I need is one rod. This is the knife edge crank, I guess you can call it. And it took a lot of material off of that thing. And this is the journal right here that got really hot. Of course it got hot and then got really hot. So let me go ahead and figure out what we're gonna do next. It's the next day, guys. I got the Z31 in the background for the rest of this episode. Went home, I got the Prelude out there because I'm driving it. So put the Z31 in here and you guys can have a little bit different eye candy in the background. She's not bad to look at. I think she's easy on the eyes. We got the extra head out here so we can use it as reference to go ahead and see if we have oversized valves. We'll do a couple measurements on this crank and the bore size of that here on that cap, this area, we need to take measurements and see how worn out that is, or if it is at all. I don't know. This could be heat that caused that, but I didn't find the bore size online, unluckily, because most of the forums and stuff that I looked on Google, it just will tell you the size of the crank. And what I've learned about the A4 and the A is there is a difference in the crank size. And this is a 50 mil. We'll measure that. Yeah, see, 50 mil. And I don't know the year model of the H22 that's in the EK, because if it is from 97, it'll fit. It'll be a 50 mil. Anything after 97, it went to 55 millimeters, and I'm hoping that's not the case with this, because that'll kind of hold things down. I'm trying not to put a lot of money in this, guys, because my flight school is expensive. So I'm trying to ball on a budget. I'm trying to live a champagne life on a water budget. What other reference can you use? I don't know. I don't know of any other references. But anyway, so the way that I think that I'm gonna do this, because if you look at this, it's a oil distribution slash bracket. To properly measure the bore, you got to torque all that down, right? But the problem is I can't really work in there too well to get an accurate reading with the bore scope. Not a bore scope, a telescopic gauge. This is what we'll be using. One of these that fit. We're gonna measure with that, right? So what I was thinking of doing was just kind of like comparing three bore sizes and comparing them next to each other, and seeing that will give me a general idea how worn out this is, right? By comparing three different areas. So that's kind of the idea of how I'm gonna go about it. It's not the most accurate way, but it'll give me some idea. And it'll let me know whether or not if this thing can be, you know, salvaged or not. And I'm hoping that it can be, because I want to use this block. It's already got the sleeves in it and everything. And I know you can press sleeves in and out, so I mean, what's to stop me if I was to use the other block and just press those in? I don't know. It's all money right now. I'm just trying to do it as cheap as I can. I'm just trying to see if it's feasible to do it as cheap as I want to do it. And when I say cheap as I want to do it, I only want to do it with gaskets, seals, and a rod with new bearings and stuff, of course. So that would be the ultimate goal. But let's go ahead and see how much this is worn out right here. Just for reference, we have a good journal for the rod, and we have this one that's messed up. It's like 48.2. 47.5. Yep, definitely wore that out. 7 thousandths. So yeah, that got pretty dang hot. Oh yeah, this part too, look. So that's the part that concerns us on the block. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. It's showing 50. So maybe this middle part is where it just got material from the bearing, maybe. I don't know. Let's see a different area. Yeah, 49. Okay. Yeah, it definitely wore itself in on the crank right there, which is not a good sign. So let's go ahead real quick. We're gonna measure these valves. That way I don't get all dirty on the ground. Alright, so this is gonna be a little tricky to get in there, but right here looks about the middle. We have 36.1. One that's easy to get to. Yeah, it looks like it fits right in there. So more than likely we have stock size valves. They may be a different brand because they are a little bit different than what's in this head. Now, this is an A4 head. Okay. These actually kind of seem like they're a little bit smaller. Close enough. I'm trying to bet that they're stock size. That's what I'm led to believe. So it's ported though. That's good. Okay, let's go ahead and figure this out real quick. All right, we got them in place. I went ahead and wrote things down on a piece of paper so we could keep track of the measurements, and I drew out the bore, right? And basically these lines are because we're going to be measuring like that, that, and that. We'll be doing that on each one. We'll record it, we'll compare it, so let's do it. Alright, just want to get something straight about this block. I do know I can send it to the machine shop and they can machine the journals out, or the bores. I always mix up the two words. They can machine that out and use oversized bearings. I do know that. I'm being hopeful and hoping that I don't have to send it to the machine shop, because then things start adding up, right, and getting like really expensive. So that's the whole idea of why I'm doing this, and it's gonna give us an idea if this was worn out. But to my surprise, doing what I was doing, I know this isn't gonna be 100% accurate, but I did the best I could just holding it down and taking measurements with a telescopic gauge to see how similar they are, right? And it looks hopeful doing it that way. The proper way to do it next would be actually, if that crank is the right size, we put the crank in with the bearings, new bearings, and then we use a wax gauge, and then we clamp it all down to the spec, and then after that take it off and inspect the gauge itself, the wax, and that will 100% seal the deal, tell you if it's good or not. But it looks hopeful based off of what I took, and there are some consistencies. All right, so this is the middle one, right? So out of this side on the first bore, I had got as low as a 5401. This was a 5402 in the middle, right? The one that got heated up. And this one was a 5403. This one right here in the first one, I got a 5413 was the best I can get out of that. And 5413, best I can get on the middle, right? And then 5414 was what I got on the last. And for the right side, it was 5403, 5401, but I did get a little bit less than that in one point. Now it may be off a little bit each time that I do it, right? And then 5406 on the bottom one, the last one. So it kind of looks hopeful based off of this, and it looks like this is just hot spots from it getting really hot, so it didn't, you know, wear into it. because obviously if it would have worn into it, it'd be no material left on this bearing. So the fact that this bearing was in there and stayed intact pretty much helped it out. So I still got my fingers crossed on this, because the next thing that I need to do to absolutely confirm it is whenever I get the crank out of that car and that engine, as long as I look out and it's 50 mil, I can put it in there with new bearings and then use a wax gauge, torque it all down, take it back off, and then read the wax with the gauge that they give you, and then you'll know 100% how much clearance you have. And if that test is good, we can use it. That's the conclusion I came to. So yeah. All right, so now we know a little bit about the engine, right? It's hopeful. I guess that would be the best word to use. It's hopeful. We know the next move, we got to take the engine out of the EK, get that all torn down, and then hopefully, if the engine gods are in our favor, they'll grant us with a 50mm crank. I'm hoping that is a 97 engine, so it's yet to be seen, right? And then once I take that engine apart and we do have the right crank, we'll go ahead, use the bearings that's in it, because they're brand new, and put it in there, and then we'll do the wax gauge. And if that, like I said, is good, man, we're throwing this thing together. We need to get a rod. So anybody watching that actually has a H-beam, I think this is a H-beam rod. It's Eagle rod. If you have a H-beam Eagle rod laying around, a good one, and you want to donate it or sell it to me cheap, let me know. Because if not, I'm probably going to be forced to buy a whole set. And I'm trying not to do that, because I actually have 3 good ones. So if any of y'all have that out there, let me know. Please, in the comments below, let me know. That'd be great. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed this one. It was pretty cool ripping down this 10,000 RPM engine, seeing the differences, mostly in the crank, right? But obviously it didn't go right because stuff failed. And I'm led to believe that they didn't do the shaft delete correctly. That may have led to this engine failing, because looking at where I remember, I'm trying to think, sorry. I remember when I put in the shaft delete kit in that engine, that there was a plug that I had to put somewhere along the caps. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. So when we take that engine apart, we'll see exactly how that is. And if they didn't put that in there, because this was all tightened down and all the bearings were in there, right? If they didn't put that in there, that could have been the main reason this engine failed, because you're supposed to block off a passage, I believe, that goes to the counterweights, the counter shafts, sorry. And this don't seem to have it, so it's possible that's the reason this engine didn't last as long, and the parts look really good still. So that's my hypothesis, and I'm sticking to it. We'll know more once we rip that one apart, and then we'll see for sure, right? All right, guys, I'm out. I hope y'all enjoyed this one. I was able to throw this one together, and like I said, it's been on my mind for quite some time. So y'all go ahead, chill out, grab some popcorn, get ready. We're about to do the next part of this, so I'll see y'all soon. Peace out.